Okay, I think we should be getting there, right? Are we live?
All right, everyone. Welcome to, are we ready?
Mhm.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Hop Talk series. This is our third video, live video in our series. And with this live series, what we wanted to do was really feature three newer public varieties that we at CLS Farms have really enjoyed. We're finding a lot of success with them and excitement around these. And so we thought it would be fun for this panel to come together with HRC and really celebrate these three varieties. The three varieties we'll feature today is Comet, Cashmere, and Triumph. And I am going to turn it over to my co-host, Judith Thoet, who is the Technical Director of the Hop Research Council, and Bryan Thoet, who is the Executive Director of Hop Research Council. And they are going to give a little background on HRC and its connection to the public hop breeding program, and introduce these three varieties. So go ahead, Judy.
Okay, well, thank you, Cherie. I'll start by just giving a little introduction on the HRC and our role with the USDA. We play a very valuable piece in the communications loop with the USDA. Our membership, the HRC membership, consists of growers, dealers, and brewers. So we touch all the interested parties. And our goal is to collect, organize, and provide input in a timely fashion to the USDA hop breeders. Dr. John Henning and Dr. Kayla Altendorf, who is in Prosser. John Henning is in Corvallis, Oregon. The HRC works with the Brewers Association to coordinate sensory evaluations of advanced selections through HopSource. And that allows us to highlight some of the promising selections that hopefully will make it to the next level. The HRC coordinates with our brewing members to schedule brewing trials to gain sensory information and feedback. So we set that up. The brewers produce small lots of using those particular hops, and then we can go out for sensory analysis on that. The HRC does not fund varietal development directly. That's all through the USDA. We do fund some of the greenhouse work and trial plots for single hill testing and advanced line growouts. We also coordinate the elite line growouts. So once a advanced line selection looks promising, has good agronomics, good yield potential, good flavor, sensory analysis, then we will take it to the next stage. And we're trying to kind of get a commercial view of these selections. So we want to be able to grow it out in 1 to 2 acre lots and assess the quality and also provide greater exposure to growers and brewers of these new selections that are coming along. So what we've tried to do is add a little structure from our side to the process. So we've created and we update and maintain a database for all selections. We have formal discussions to highlight selections which show interest from growers and or brewers. Those are our discussions with USDA breeders. And Judy and I also sit on the advisory committee, and we provide input from the industry to Dr. Ryan Hayes, who is the research leader of the USDA 4-H Seed and Cereal Research Unit in Corvallis. The most complex part of the equation is really from release to bottle. And that is creating the excitement, creating some energy behind these potential new varieties, communicating with propagators so that there's new rootstock that is available of these selections or varieties, communicating with growers, dealers, and brewers to promote the interest. So this is an activity here that is designed to create a little bit of excitement, get people talking about some of these newer selections. So we'll go now into a little bit more detail on these new selections that are out there, public varieties. And so I'll turn it back to Cherie to introduce the public varieties.
Well, actually, I think what we should do first, though, Bryan, is to introduce our panelists that are going to evaluate each of these varieties. And I'll say that I'm very pleased that I have the pleasure of working with most of these panelists through the HRC. Most of them are members. In fact, all of them are members of the HRC. So I'd like to present first, we have Zach German, who is with Anheuser-Busch InBev.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, Julie.
Glad to have you. And next I'm going to introduce Eric Desmarais. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, Eric, but Eric is one of the owners of CLS Farms, and we're very glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Judy, for the nice introduction. So glad to be here, and should have some fun today going through the samples.
Great. Our next panelist is Graham Ollard, and he is with Hollingbery and Son.
Hi, Judy, tuning in from Hollingbery and Sons selection room here in Yakima, Washington. Glad to be here.
Oh, okay, so that's the actual selection room. Great to see you. Good to see you, Graham. Next, we're going to go south down to San Diego, and we've got Jeremy Moynier, and he is with Stone Brewing.
Hey, Judy, good to see you virtually. I'm in my selection in my office.
Even better. Nice to see you, Jeremy. So now we're going to go back up north and over to the east to Diane Gooding with Gooding Farms.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from southwestern Idaho.
Good to see you, Diane. And next we have Laura Hansen, and she is with Brewers Supply Group.
Hi, Judy. My selection room for 2020 is my kitchen, so welcome.
Looks like you have a nice kitchen. Okay, well, now you know who our panelists are. I'm now going to turn this over to Cherie, and she's going to introduce our first public variety for aroma analysis, Comet.
Okay, so we are going to start with Comet. One thing I didn't mention before for everyone tuning in on this is all the selection samples went to each panelist, and they will be opening this sample for the first time right now. So we're capturing everyone's first reaction to the sensory, and we will get to hear individually from each of them about each sample. So first, I'd like you guys to take out your Comet sample. This sample is from CLS Farms, and it has a harvest date of September 12th. It is from one of our mature fields. And you guys can go ahead and get that out, start rubbing. That analysis on this sample, the alpha was 11.3% and beta was 4.6%. So while you guys are sampling too, I'm going to hand it back to Judy. She's going to talk a little bit more about Comet, the variety, and some of the background on that before we tap into your guys' input.
Okay. So while our panelists are doing their sniff and rub, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Comet, its history, because it is kind of an interesting history. It is a USDA release. It was released in 1974, and it is the cross of English hops with a wild American variety. Commercial production actually ceased in about the 1980s. The original intention of Comet was that it was going to be a high alpha variety, but with alpha levels of between, say, 9 and 12%, it just didn't compete very well with the more contemporary high alpha varieties that were being released in the 80s. Recently, however, it has enjoyed a comeback thanks to its unique flavor and aroma profile. So as I said, it was intended to be used as a bittering hop when it was first released, but Comet has found a second life as an aroma variety in IPAs, wild ales, farmhouse beers, and other cutting-edge craft style beers. So as I said, you can expect an alpha acid range of between 9 and 12%, beta acid range between 3 and 6, and total oils will typically run between about 1 and 1.5. And I was just looking up, in 2018, we actually had about 218 acres of Comet being produced in Washington. So now if our panelists are ready with their lexicon of descriptors for Comet, I would like to first call on Zach. Zach German, could you let us know your impressions of Comet?
Sure. I kind of feel like I'm being tested here. But yeah, I think the first thing that I really got off of it was really big grapefruit. I know that's kind of one of the top common descriptors, and I think it's there for a reason. Like I really got hit by grapefruit and kind of had to look pretty hard to get behind that. And then after that, I got a lot of resin, not necessarily pine, but just kind of a gummy resinousness. And it was a little bit solvent-like, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. Like when I smell Citra, that's obviously hugely popular, the first impression I get on Citra is a real solventy quality as well. And I think that it is almost kind of a texture. It kind of hits you in your lungs a little the way that menthol does. So it opens up your lungs and your sinuses a bit. And I get that same character from this as well. And then finally, I get a bit of melon.
Great. Thank you, Zach. Eric, if it's okay, I'd like to call on you next.
For sure. So we've been growing Comet for quite a few years, and so this presents to me as really, really, really what we're normally used to seeing as far as Comet. Definitely, I get, it's always cut that tag as Citra's little sister a little bit. So I always get the citrus stuff. I think Zach probably was getting a little more. He was getting some more specific out of it. I get more of that general citrus. The interesting one I got though that was not a lot of times not associated with Comet is melon, and I was glad Zach did not talk about this before, but I got a little hint of melon on it. So Zach stole my thunder right there with it. but I did, Comet's always been an interesting variety because it's always, while its alpha is not tremendously high and its oils aren't even, they're up there, but not tremendously high either. But it always does present really, really resiny on your hands. And it seems like craft brewers, regardless of the alpha or even the total oils amount, always really like those varieties that are resinous and impact a lot. So definitely got the Citra. This presents very normally what we've seen every year on Comet. Get a little bit of that citrus, but I definitely got some melon out of it myself as well. So.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Graham, could I call on you next?
Hey, Judy. I got to agree with Eric here. We also buy and sell quite a bit of Comet, and this is a pretty representative sample of Comet, what we see. It's pretty typical, and in quality aspects, it looks great, smells great, hits the grapefruit notes. I definitely say there's a little tropical undernotes of like guava or hog juice. It's kind of what came through my head initially. On first opening the sample, when you just smell just the cup, loose cones without rubbing it, you get that kind of typical grassy herbal smell that also comes along with Comet. But yeah, nice sample here. very representative of the variety.
Just an aside, I love Pog. Okay, so Jeremy, do you think you could give your impressions?
Yeah, absolutely. My office smells amazing now, so thank you for that. Definitely get the citrus, the grapefruit, maybe a little lemon and lime. I also, and actually the melon kind of on the back end as well. I actually get a little bit of kind of rose petals, which surprised me a little bit, and almost a tiny bit of vanilla character. Pretty complex, and I don't recall rubbing Comet that has been this complex. So this is really nice sample, and there's a lot going on here. Definitely that kind of grapefruit citrus stands out at first, but I think as you keep going back to it, I'm getting more and more, a little more resin too as I go back to it. Yeah, really nice.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Diane, what are your thoughts on this variety?
So we don't actually grow Comet, but I've seen it in our neighborhood, and it's a really nice hop, really unique growing characteristics. So one thing Eric always points out is it's the hop plants themselves are always bright yellow, and then once they start to go into bloom, they turn a dark green, which is really unique, a growing characteristic of the variety. Kind of cool. I got, hate to touch on everything else. I did get a touch of pine. I appreciate Jeremy with the floral, because I got a little bit of that and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then my first, before I got even the grapefruit, which came second, was cherry. A little bit of a medium cherry note to it. So that was a really beautiful sample, and props to CLS for growing a really beautiful hop.
And thank you for mentioning its growing characteristic. I've not seen Comet before, but that's really interesting that it goes from yellow to dark green during the growing season. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you, panelists, for all of your comments about Comet. And we're going to go on to our next variety now, which is Cashmere. And so, Cherie, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, guys, so now you're going to go in and get out your Cashmere sample. Same thing. This is their first reaction to this. This sample came from CLS Farms as well, from a baby field this year, and its harvest date was September 19th. The alpha acids on this lot were 7.4. The betas at 4.7. And I'm going to turn this over to Bryan while you guys do your sensory on this. And he is going to give a little background on Cashmere and get everyone up to speed.
Okay, Cashmere. It was developed by Washington State University in their Prosser facility. It was a cross of Cascade and North Brewer, and it was released in 2013. It had rather slow traction initially. It was kind of slow to get any support. But recently, been hearing some very positive comments from brewers about Cashmere, and brewers actually asking, who's growing Cashmere? Where can I get some Cashmere at? So that's very, very positive. Cashmere really shines when it's used for aroma and flavor in hop-forward styles. It's respectable alpha content combined with a low cohumulone lets it contribute a real smooth bitterness if used early in the boil. It's a good dual-purpose hop. So typical alpha on this variety is 7.5% to 9%. I think Cherie said that the sample that we're looking at came in at 7.4%, so kind of the lower end of that scale. Beta acid 3.3 to 7%. Total oils 1.2 to 1.4. So I'll start with getting a little bit of feedback from our panelists, and I'll ask Laura first for her comments and descriptions of this particular variety.
Thanks, Brian. So with Cashmere, I always get overwhelming raspberry jam, which I did with this one as well. And so I always have to really get into it to get past that. But it's always that just overwhelming, amazing, like seeded jam that's just in your face. And then past that, I got almost like a sweet orange, like a tangerine. And then melon, specifically like a honeydew melon. But you said it's a baby field. This is amazing. Smells great.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Raspberry jam, yes, very definitely. You open that container and you immediately get hit with that. So we'll move on. Jeremy, get your thoughts on this one also.
Yeah, I think Laura kind of hit it. I always get red fruit and that kind of raspberry, strawberry on Cashmere is always like the first thing that hits me. And then these other nuances kind of surround that. And I agree with the melon as well. I get kind of a spiciness to it also. That, the last few years smelling this hop is always one of my favorite hops to smell during selection. It's just, to me, it's so unique. There's an herbal quality there too, and even a little coconut kind of in the back end. Really a fun hop though, really, really kind of unique. We're always kind of chasing kind of more on the berry end hops because it doesn't seem like there's a lot out there that really focus, especially on that kind of red fruit. We've done single hops trials with Cashmere, and it doesn't always, come through on the like if you use it as a single hop, but it's interesting. It comes through more sometimes when you start blending it. But yeah, this is amazing. Really, really nice, really vibrant.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Eric, what do you have to say?
Okay, well, we've grown Cashmere for quite a few years now. It's always it's always a little bit of an adventure growing it because I think we're all still learning where to pick it and how it plays in the picking window. I had never really thought in the terms of kind of raspberry or strawberry, but now after Laura said that, now I kind of went back to it, and I'm definitely getting that. I always get like kind of a spice, kind of a sharp spice out of it as well. It always presents really, really unique on the sensory table for people that we show it to as well. So it definitely can be a polarizing variety at times, even within our own group here at CLS. So I think it's getting good traction, and we're still learning and figuring out where in the window to pick it. And I do really appreciate the raspberry strawberry comments. That's ones I haven't heard before, but I'm definitely getting it out of here.
Eric, just for a comment on the growing characteristics of Cashmere, any concerns with disease or disease pressures with this particular variety?
Yeah, it definitely is susceptible to powdery mildew, but we have had good success at controlling it. We just had to learn how to do that. So last year we struggled a little bit with powdery mildew. This year we had no struggle at all with it. As far as its vigor is outstanding, its yield is proven to be outstanding, and so powdery mildew, the industry has learned how to deal with that in a pretty decent manner. We see no signs of downy in it, which is helpful for our Oregon folks, and so. But like I said, it's got excellent vigor. In fact, it's almost too vigorous in some situations. And we have really had a lot of success on the yield of it. And so I think agronomically, it's the real deal. And we have no problem. I mean, we see this as a hop that we can we can plant quite a bit of and be very comfortable with.
Okay, well, thank you for those additional comments. Diane, any cashmere being grown down in Idaho?
Yeah, we might have a little dab or two of it. We actually, once the variety was released and we had free or clean plant stock from the National Clean Plant Network, I drove up to Washington and got 2 mother plants. And this was, shoot, I don't know, 8 years ago, 2012 or 13 or something like that. So we've seen it for quite a while. And we've always been a good proponent. We do have a little bit of a love-hate cashmere because as Eric kind of mentioned, there can be a couple, depending on the season, a couple hiccups here and there. But also, as you mentioned, trying to figure varieties out when they're first released can be, there's a learning curve there. So we really like our cashmere and are pretty excited about the variety. One little kind of funny story. So Michelle, my sister, she runs our dryer. I think we were picking like, I don't know, some alpha or something. And we had our 2-acre plot of cashmere. And she calls me and she says, Diane, you got to come up to the dryer. Something's wrong. I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay. So I go up there and she's like, smell this. And I was like, okay, it smells really cool. She's like, it smells like Fruit Loops. That was always her favorite cereal growing up. So that was pretty neat. And I certainly get that. Fruity Pebbles, again, on Laura's comment with the raspberries. On these, I got a hint of a little bit of peach as well. So really nice sample. And my hands are super sticky. I don't know what the oil is on these, but it has to be up there.
Okay, thanks, Diane, for those comments. We'll move on to Graham.
All right. Yeah, I'll repeat a few things and maybe add a few things. We smell quite a bit of cashmere now, and definitely first thing I'm looking for and seems to stick out the most, and what a lot of brewers are looking for, is that strawberry, raspberry, Fruit Loop flavor that you get. And and Diane's right, you can smell it when it's kilning, you can smell it in the air. It's great. I love this hop. It's fun to smell. It can definitely get a little, this smells amazing. It was picked perfectly. I would say that some gets picked a little later. It's got kind of I think like a pretty tight window that you want to hit to make your brewer samples smell good on the table. They can get a little rank, kind of like a diesely burning rubber kind of smell to them. That we've seen in the past too, like in the first couple of years when we were playing with this variety, trying to figure out when to pick it. But a lot of that smell gases off really fast. Again, you don't see that at all in this sample, but it's pretty neat because some of those actually really kind of gross samples on the table have made amazing pellets and amazing beer afterwards. So I don't know, this is a great hop. I think it's been fun to learn how it's developed and how to pick it and all the flavors you can get out of it. But it's definitely really unique compared to what else is on the market there right now.
Okay, those are excellent comments, Graham. And Zach, have you had a chance to do a little rub and sniff yourself?
I have. And with Graham making that comment about how the hop tends to evolve, everybody has now said everything that I was going to add. So I don't have too much more to add on top of that. I guess the first thing I got was kind of an herbal spicy character. Right below that, I wrote down berry. I didn't decide if it was raspberry or strawberry, but I think I'm in the raspberry camp. And then I got a little bit of citrus. I wrote down lime, and then peach and tangerine. And yeah, I definitely want to echo what Graham said about more than any other variety I've encountered. Cashmere really tends to evolve from what you rub right at harvest to what you get in the pellet. I think there's just enough volatile compounds in there that off gas during the milling process that some of the potentially off-putting characteristics go away, and it blooms into this beautiful brew pellet. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much, Zach. So Cherie, Triumph is the next variety.
Yes, so our last variety we're going to do is Triumph. Triumph, as all of you guys know, is the newest variety to be released. This lot sample came from actually the Weenass Hop Farm. And this is also from a baby fill that you'll be seeing. The alpha on this sample is 12%, and the betas are at 4.1%. And while you guys get that out and start doing sensory on that, I'm going to pass it off to Judy to talk about Triumph and its release to the market.
Okay, thank you, Cherie. So while our panelists are doing their rub and sniff, I'll talk just a little bit about Triumph, which is a 2019 release from the USDA ARS hop breeding program led by Dr. John Henning in Corvallis, Oregon. Triumph was obtained from a cross made in 2000 between the USDA variety Nugget and a USDA male germplasm called 21110M. Triumph has a high yield potential in the Pacific Northwest and a relatively good tolerance to common diseases and insect pests. As far as I understand, there are approximately 75 acres of Triumph out there right now. Its usage. So Triumph was being bred when basically we were looking for a new Willamette, if you will. So it was bred to be used in the noble fashion, if you will, similar to other noble hop varieties. So in either a lager or a Pilsner style, as well as pale ales. Current cultivars in these same styles, as you know, include Willamette, Hallertau, and Tettnang. It'll typically have an alpha coming in right around 11%, beta of around 3.5%, and total oil content between about 1.07 and 1.15. And so just knowing when this cross was made, it also shows how much time elapses between when a cross is made and an actual variety is released. And there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into getting these varieties released. So I'd like to call on our panelists now, if they're about ready to talk a little bit about Triumph. I'd like to begin with Jeremy, if you're ready.
Yeah, so definitely right off the bat, I got peach. And then it was almost like peaches and cream, which kind of surprised me because I don't remember getting that from Triumph. There's definitely some orange as well, and kind of a underlining lime. I get some woodiness also. Yeah, some kind of woodiness and then a little spice too on the back end. Really that peach, really peaches on the front, and then I'm getting more and more lime as I keep going back to it.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. Laura, can we get your feedback on Triumph?
Yeah, so this is, there's a lot going on in Triumph. So I have a lot. First was bubblegum, which specifically Bazooka Joe bubblegum. That was the first thing I got. And then I got apricot. So yeah, a little on the sweeter stone fruit, and then pine and spice. But it's almost like everlasting gobstopper. Every time you smell it, there's something else coming out of it. It's pretty amazing.
Great, thanks. Well, you've got a pal in the Bazooka bubblegum because Doug Weathers, who grew out the first elite commercial plot of Triumph, says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, maybe Zach, we can get you next.
Sure. First thing I got on it was orange. I got a real big, bright citrus, kind of orange with a little bit of lime in the background. And then I was was looking for the bubble gum because it's a pretty common descriptor, and I wanted to find bubble gum, and I couldn't. I think I mean, maybe I just haven't chewed a lot of bubble gum, so I don't have a lot of association. To me, I see what's in there, I see what it could be, but to me, it's like a really overripe fruit. Like, so I could see it being like an apricot that's fallen from the tree, and it's almost too late for it, but it's super pungent. It's something more like it's a very soft, sweet aroma, but I don't quite get it as bubble gum. And then I definitely got some peach and kind of a background of spiciness.
Oh, great. Great descriptors. Thank you. Eric, would you mind giving your impression?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give a shout out to Shree here, because when we started picking them in Weenass, everybody was so excited to actually harvest them. We had a baby field last year. We have a mature field and baby field this year, and we were all sitting in the picking machine about 5:30, and the vines came up and they were racked up there, and we all could smell it. But Shree comes out and says juicy fruit gum. So we got it then. So in this sample, maybe we've been polarized here to get juicy fruit gum, but I get the gum thing totally. So that's probably the one, least for me, that sticks into my brain a little bit. The peach was interesting. I can see a little bit of that. A little background is that we definitely, since it was a baby yard, and even the mature yard we sat on the harvest date because we really wanted this thing to have a little bit of oomph to it, a little punch to it. So I know in Oregon they talk about the end of August, early September. This was harvested on September 6th, and so we sat on it, trying to get it deeper into its profile. And for those out there that know CLS, we tend to do that. We always go deep into the profile. So we really tried to put a little bit of oomph into it. So for me on the sample, I'm getting a lot of that juicy fruit gum myself. I don't know specifically about the Bazooka brand of gum, because I'm not sure I know enough about gum to formulate that kind of opinion, but I definitely get the gum out of it, and the bubble gum, juicy fruit gum thing. And the peach thing was interesting. That's another one that now it's been said, I pick it up a little bit. So real quick, I'll give just a couple seconds on the agronomics of the variety. We saw zero powdery mildew in it. We saw zero downy mildew into it. It is a super vigorous variety. The mature yards were yielded around 2175 an acre pounds wise, which is solid. The babies were around 1,300 pounds per acre, which is solid. Once again, this variety I also view as being something that can be scaled in the industry very well and very easy. It's going to be very forgiving on the baby year. It's going to make a good baby crop, and disease-wise and pest pressure-wise, it was excellent. So the agronomics behind Triumph are excellent as well. If this variety decides to take off and the brewers want it, this variety has the agronomics behind it to get it done. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for that summary. Graham, could you be the next panelist to talk about Triumph?
Yeah, Judy. I love the bubblegum characteristic that I've always smelled coming out of Triumph. And then I think, the characters of like the sweet citrus and sweet stone fruit that you get, kind of like a mandarin orange, and that peach flavor is probably what translates more into the beer from the couple of beers that I've tried with it in it. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a spiciness in the background, kind of a floral geranium, rose petal kind of thing going on. And then I don't know, it always carries that sweet flavor where it's like maybe a honey characteristic to it as well. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to try a lot. I haven't tried a lot of beers, but it'd be interesting to see more beers come out with this hop. So.
Okay, thank you, Graham. And we certainly hope they do come out with this hop. Diane, if you wouldn't mind finishing up this panel, and I believe, Diane, you're growing some in Idaho, and if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of the agronomics as well.
Yeah, so we've had this in our commercial, or our kind of advanced elite line grow out for the Idaho Hop Commission for the last 4 or 5 years. Looked to be a really early, highly vigorous, as Eric said before, variety. Really excited about it, and upon release, we were just Johnny on the spot to snap it up. As you know, disease and pest pressure, really a star in that category, which can be sometimes a little hard to find. We have a 5-acre trial that we're planning to expand. The trial was okay this year. We had hoped for a little bit better yield turnout, but there were some other factors at play there that kind of weren't the greatest. So, but we're really excited about the variety and are planning on expansion and putting it actually in its own full field trial because we do have so much faith in the variety, as well as it is a little bit earlier here, Southern Idaho. You're looking at the first week in September, if not late August. So for many growers in this area, it would be a really beautiful fit for the harvest flexibility of it. As far as my notes, actually, when I first opened the sample, I kind of got spice, maybe even a touch of fennel, but I wasn't sure. The spice stuff for me is really hard to kind of pinpoint which spice. And then key lime, I agreed with the peach, and the juicy fruit's always I mean, when we harvested ours, that was just front and center, juicy fruit gum. And I actually texted Eric when we were bailing. I was like, do you get this too? Like, this is crazy. But very unique. At the end, I got a little bit of a papaya or like a nectarine stone fruit. So, but really, really beautiful sample and really promising hop.
Great, glad to hear that. Okay, thank you. Thank you all of our panelists for being present and sharing your impressions of all 3 of these varieties with us. I'm going to switch over to Cherie. She may have some questions. And just remember that we do have the USDA hop breeders, I believe, in the chat room if you want to ask them any questions. So Cherie, would you like to take over the Q&A session?
Yes. So for everyone that's watching too, there, you guys can put any questions you want into the comments and we can pull those up as well. But I just wanted to touch base. I know Diane and Eric just did on Triumph a little bit about the agronomics of it, but I thought something that would be good, just kind of like a quick roundtable discussion would be, you know, what are growers looking for in a new variety? What are brewers looking for in a new variety? What are dealers looking for? And I also think if we could maybe get some feedback from the breeders themselves, you know, what are they looking for when they're breeding this variety and starting, because really they're the starting point for us. So if we could just do maybe a quick roundtable, Judy, you could maybe run through each panelist again and they could talk about their side of it a little bit.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So Eric, would you mind if we started with you? So what are you looking for in a new public hop variety specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, what's really important, at least to us at CLS, is, you know, varieties that can extend our picking window, that can work in different areas. So especially anything, you know, early mid, or late, you know, mid late, those kind of things can fill holes. And then it also helps the variety as well, because it provides space for growers to plant that variety. So it's less competitive. So you get into that real mid zone. It's really competitive in there for varieties. And so obviously pick window is really important. That can help a variety get legs just all on its own. The solid agronomics are key, and ultimately though, it's something that that brewers can utilize and make good beer with. And so we see a lot of brewers, and every brewer we talk to says they want a strong public breeding program, and they want varieties to come out in the public program to be successful. So our goal in all this is to see successful public varieties come to the forefront. So, but disease resistance, those things are important. But also got to be a little careful with these new hops. You don't have to have perfection sometimes on the growing side, and so ultimately I would hand it off to brewers. And if when brewers find the right kind of aroma profile that they're excited about and potential elite lines of the public varieties, it would be even if the variety isn't exactly perfect, many times us growers can work through it. But pick window is important. We like that a lot. So and making sure we're punching up varieties on the public side that brewers are excited about. So
Great. Thank you for your input. And I've heard the same thing from Shane Fobert down here. He grows out John's advanced lines, is that, maybe the variety is not perfect, but they're being treated all the same. And so once you actually get your hands on a new variety and you work with it to improve it and bring out its best. So that's definitely a good thing to keep in mind, is that it's up to the grower. And the grower takes a lot of pride in growing these varieties to their perfection. And we appreciate that. Zach, what about you? What are you looking for in new public varieties?
I think you actually segued perfectly into what I'm looking for, and what a lot of people are looking for, and that's a variety where we have a pretty good understanding of how to manage for aroma. What is late pick character? What is early pick character? How to manage different stresses in the field to still come up with a consistent product. Definitely within the first few years of a variety launch, what we tend to see is that there's a handful of growers who each have relatively small acreage, small plots. So inherently, there's a lot of variability early on in a variety's development, and we want to be able to work towards consistency. So all work together to figure out what is the best time to pick this variety, what creates the best aroma, and then can that be done consistently at scale? If a variety just has too much inherent variability, if different farms, different growing regions can't really hone in on year after year and across geographic areas producing a consistent hop, then it's really hard to brew with. Every year you never know what you're going to get. So I'd say the ability to fine tune towards the ideal aroma and then from there produce it consistently is hugely important. And then also consistent yields. So once we start contracting, of course the hope is that you always get pretty close to what you contract, that it doesn't end up too short, which makes it hard to have enough hops to make your beer, or too long, which potentially the grower gets stuck with a lot of extra hops, and then we get more volatility in the market. So yeah, consistency in aroma, consistency in yield.
Okay, great. Thank you. Graham, what about you as a dealer? What are you looking for in a new public variety?
Yeah, I would say as a dealer or merchant, we're kind of in the middle, trying to look out for both ends of the spectrum. We want our growers to be happy with what they're growing. They need agronomic varieties that are disease, they don't want to spend their entire summer out in the field spraying a variety to keep it under wraps. And then on the brewer side, our best feedback is this time of year for new varieties. When people are here for selection, or right now we're doing a lot of mail outs, we've been throwing in a cup of Triumph in almost every selection we send out. So And so far, it's been pretty well received. Diane did a great job this year. It's pretty nice. Yeah, pretty nice lot of triumph that we have that we've been showing people. It's interesting. Sometimes brewers, I would say, smell things and like them, but don't necessarily know how they're going to use them yet. So there's some play there, especially when you have things like bubble gum and strange new flavors. They're like, well, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with that or where it's going to tie in with everything else I'm doing. But yeah, so I guess the proof is in the pudding, kind of. So we like what the brewer really enjoys and how much they buy off the table at that moment. It was plenty of times we had guys come in, and some of the first years we were putting Comet on the table, we had people just scooping up every bit of pounds that we had available on the spot. So I don't know. It's a good judge of which direction to go. So
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks. And thank you for helping to promote Triumph as well. Laura,
Absolutely.
what about you?
Yeah, so I think in addition to what others have said, our feedback from brewers really is unique varieties, unique new aroma, something different. That's what we always hear. And then I think, we talked a lot about the agronomics, but specifically good yields for the growers, which to them, I think equates to a good price for the brewer. So.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you. Diane, do you have anything to add?
No, just a little echoing of Eric's, comments on the picking window. I don't, when you say early and early mid, the difference between those is really only a few days. And finding those that are outside of, like, say, the 10th to the 20th is pretty important for the grower base at the moment. So just executing well on those that are outside of that window is certainly a focus and an exciting new opportunity, I think, for a lot of folks. So these varieties that are public and different and unique, certainly are big proponents of them.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. I agree with everything that's been said so far. And yeah, the pain in the ass brewer response would be to say, yes, we want something new, unique, that's going to punch me in the face, and it's going to be so different and amazing, and I can build a brand around it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's more complex than that. And I'll tell you, with these three varietals, we've played with them for years, and you see evolution, whether it's positive or negative. You see evolution as picking windows are figured out, how to grow it is figured out. And I've noticed a lot of good positive growth with these varietals, especially in my mind with Cashmere. I think picking windows are huge. And I think you can go back and look at picking windows. And Eric alluded to it too, especially with letting stuff hang, but not going over the cliff. I think there's a lot to be done just with that with varietals. Also, just having a versatile hop. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's going to hit you in the head. Is it a good blender? Does it work? Does it play nice with others? Is it, and to the other comments of, and then can you get it? And are we, you get excited about something, but if you can't get any, it doesn't matter, right? So I think everything that, it's a complex answer actually, right? It's not simple. But I think these three varietals really show that, there's a pretty cool road ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. So probably Sherry, I should go back over to you. Do you have any questions that the panelists need to answer, or that, I don't know if we have Kayla and John in the chat room, maybe they need to answer some questions?
Yeah, we do have a few more questions. So this one, just to make it a quick one, we had a comment that she was asking if anyone's getting banana. So let's just raise your hand if you got banana, and not raise your hand if you did not get banana, just to make that an easy answer. So anyone get banana from any of the samples? That's a no. Nope, Amaya, we're not getting any banana here. Okay, next question. And this might, Judy, you can help me after I read this, direct it to the right person. This might be more for the breeders. This is from El Jefe. And he wants to know, are there any varieties that have made it to the next stage of commercialization, getting a name in the next 2 years?
Probably, is John Henning on board? Is he in the chat room?
I don't think he is.
Okay, so I'll just address that then.
Okay.
Right now we have 3 lines that we've designated as elite line grow outs. And I would say that probably within the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to be looking at one of those being released. So as I say, right now they're elite line grow outs. So we know how they're performing in 3 different states. And in fact, we have commercial volumes of them this year that we will be selling to brewers so they can do larger trials with these lines. And by the way, anything that we sell to the brewers, the funding simply goes back to support the elite line grow outs. So as I said, right now we're looking at 3 of them. We have probably another 9 for the future that, you know, they're again 5+ years off, but I would say within the next 2 to 3 years, we're looking at 2 to 3 lines that have the ability to be released. Probably only 1 will be released, but there's some serious looking, good looking lines.
Okay, thank you for that. And then follow up on that question. Is there any consideration to include the public or brewers really in a program to gain early access to these hops when they're ready for commercialization? That they could provide feedback or marketing or even helping like name the variety?
I just saw that Kayla just sent me an email. She said that she's in the chat room. Do you want to maybe ask, is it possible to ask her to answer this or not?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Know how.
I think she'll have to just respond to the chat room. I don't know that she can pull up on the video right now.
Okay, okay. So Bryan, maybe you want to address this question a little bit, because we have been working with brewers, both with advanced lines and with elite lines. Sherry, do you mind repeating the question just so he's familiar with it?
Yeah, so it was just asking, are there any future considerations to include the public or really brewers in the program to gain early access to these new hops? Maybe in a way to get more feedback or be involved in marketing or even naming the variety?
Okay, I'll try to address that. The naming of the variety is an interesting one, and we'll have to think that through a little bit. But I think that would be an excellent suggestion. I know that the breeders themselves sometimes fall short of coming up with new ideas. So that one will certainly think that through a little bit. As far as being able to have access to the elite varieties as they're coming through the program, what we do is HRC is a membership organization. So we have member growers, we have member dealers, and member brewers. And when we harvest an elite variety, then we go out to our member brewers first and ask them what type of quantities they would like to purchase. So they get first priority at purchasing this material. Then that time period is about a month and a half that they have to access these varieties. And then we go to the dealer, our dealer members, and ask them if they would like to purchase some of this material so that they can sell it to their customer base. So for a brewer, a small brewer that's not a member of HRC, contact your dealer and see if they do have quantities of elite varieties that they may be able to sell to you. We also are working with the Brewers Association, and at the same time that we go to our dealers, we are going to send out an email to the BA membership and ask if there's interested parties in brewing some of these new elite varieties. So we will collect all of the brewers that have an interest. Then we will pass that list, and we call that the hot list, onto the dealers that have committed to purchase some of these varieties. And so then it's their responsibility to follow up with their customer base and the people that are on the hot list to make sure that some of this material is available for brewing. And we certainly would like comments, feedback, in any information that you have that you can share. That would certainly be nice as we collect that information, pass it back to the breeders to kind of streamline this whole process.
Thank you, Bryan. And Kayla did jump on in the chat, and she did agree with you, Judy, as well, saying that her and John both think it's probably another like 2 to 3 years until the next release, just depending on how the lines they're working with now perform. So that's for everyone. While we wrap up, is there any internal questions, panelists to panelists, or remarks you guys would like to make right now?
I'll make one. I just wanted to give a shout out to Hollingbery and Son and BSG, because they both have been really, really supportive of the public variety program. And so I think it's important. I think it's important to think about the dealers that are really pushing forth and being positive. And so both Laura from BSG and Graham from Hollingbery have both translated their public support into actually buying and purchasing hops from us on contract, which is going out on a limb. And so varieties, all three of these varieties. And so I think it's really important for public varieties to have advocates, and advocates are people that actually take a financial risk. So I think it's important to really thank those two for both of them. Both companies are going out on a limb and actually contracting with growers for more than insignificant volumes. They're both putting decent amounts of dollars at risk. So I just wanted to definitely give a shout out to both of them and thank them for that.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, Eric, just to echo that, you know, both PSG, Hollingbery, and I mean, HRC really, you know, both are newer members, and we really appreciate you guys and what you bring to the table. And some of that comes through in the way of some in-kind donations with, you know, proprietaries have royalties, and we have some deals on the table where we're actually giving back to HRC. We'll start seeing those checks proliferate through the council this year to support public breeding in a more sustainable fashion. So just it's been a tough year, and with all the things in the world going on, and just appreciate everybody's efforts and flexibility and commitment and patience with the growers and the brewers. And I mean, it's been a really challenging year on the grower side, and certainly on the dealer and the brewer side as well. So you know, appreciate all of you for kind of sticking with it.
Yeah, I was going to say a big shout out to Judy and Bryan too, since they've been with HRC, really elevating that group and really helping to focus, you know, HRC's end on supporting public breeding. So thank you very much. Very cool.
Great. Well, thank you guys for all of your comments and all of your feedback and participating in this panel. I think it's just really special to have someone from each sector in here, and having the breeders even kind of in the chat room. They couldn't join the call, but having them in the chat room, HRC representatives here, like Jeremy said, they've done so much for this program in the past few years. Growers, dealers, and brewers, it's important for all of us to collaborate together on these new public varieties. So we really appreciate you guys all coming together, taking this time during a really busy season to make this happen. So thank you guys, and virtual cheers to 2020 harvest, and we will chat soon.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thanks,
Just a couple more comments. For a public variety to be released and successfully grown in commercial quantities, it takes a huge effort from breeders, growers, dealers, and brewers to generate the enthusiasm, generate the financial incentives to support the release and inclusion of these varieties into mainstream beers. So cheers to all who participated, and we certainly look forward to trying some of these varieties in commercial beers. So if you are a brewer and you are brewing with Comet, Cashmere, or Triumph, please give anybody on this panel some feedback on that. We would love to hear that, and we'd love to try some of these commercial beers that are being produced. So with that, I say thanks again for everybody in participating. And it's been a very, very stressful 2020 growing year, harvest, and hopefully we can get on the other side of the hump here, and things will get a little bit easier as we move into the future.
All right, thank you, Bryan. Cheers. Thank you, everyone.